The Young and the Restless, full fan fiction recap. Disclaimer: this is a fan fiction/speculative storyline inspired by The Young and the Restless. It is not an official CBS episode recap. Genoa City woke up to another morning filled with secrets, suspicion, and unfinished business. But nobody was prepared for the terrifying turn Sienna's obsession with Sharon was about to take. For weeks, Sienna had been trying to convince herself that she had moved on. She told everyone she was stronger now. She insisted that the past no longer controlled her. She even smiled when Sharon's name came up in conversation. But behind that smile was something much darker. Sienna believed Sharon had taken away the one thing she could never replace. And on Thursday's explosive episode, Sienna finally stopped thinking about revenge as an emotional fantasy. She began considering it a real possibility. Sienna's obsession returns. The episode opened with Sienna sitting alone, staring at an old photograph. The picture showed happier times, but Sienna barely looked at the people around her. Her attention remained fixed on one person: Sharon. Sienna whispered that Sharon had ruined everything. She replayed every argument, every humiliation, and every moment when she believed Sharon had stood between her and the life she wanted. But then Sienna received an unexpected message. It was short. It simply said, "You still have time to make her pay." Sienna stared at the screen. For several seconds, she did nothing. Then she deleted the message. But deleting it didn't erase the thought. Someone had just encouraged the worst part of her personality, and Sienna was beginning to listen. Sharon notices. Something is wrong. Meanwhile, Sharon was trying to focus on her own life. She had already endured enough emotional chaos, and she wanted a peaceful day. Unfortunately, peace wasn't coming. At Crimson Lights, Sharon noticed someone watching her from across the street. She couldn't clearly identify the person. When she looked again, the figure was gone. Sharon tried to dismiss it. Maybe she was imagining things. Maybe it was simply someone waiting for a ride. But something about the encounter made her uncomfortable. Later, Sharon confided in someone close to her that she felt like somebody was following her. She didn't want to overreact. She also didn't want to live in fear. But her instincts told her something was wrong. Nick gets suspicious. Nick quickly noticed that Sharon wasn't herself. She tried to convince him everything was fine. Nick wasn't buying it. He asked Sharon directly whether somebody had threatened her. Sharon hesitated. That hesitation told Nick everything. She finally admitted that she'd noticed strange behavior around her. Nick immediately became protective. He told Sharon that she shouldn't ignore warning signs. But Sharon didn't want another person getting pulled into her problems. She insisted she could handle it. Nick disagreed. He believed whoever was watching Sharon might eventually become more dangerous. Neither of them realized that Sienna was already making plans. Sienna confronts her own demons. Sienna returned to her room and began pacing. She knew what she was thinking was wrong. She knew there was a line she shouldn't cross. Yet anger kept winning the argument inside her head. She blamed Sharon for everything. Every failure, every heartbreak, every opportunity she believed had disappeared. Sienna convinced herself that Sharon deserved to suffer emotionally. But then her thoughts went even further. She wanted Sharon gone from her life permanently. Sienna stopped herself. For the first time, she looked frightened by her own thoughts. She sat down and covered her face. "This isn't who I am," she whispered. But then her phone rang. It was the same mysterious number. Sienna answered. The voice on the other end warned her that if she wanted revenge, she needed to stop hesitating. Sienna said nothing. The call ended, and the silence afterward was even more disturbing. Sharon receives another warning. At Crimson Lights, Sharon found an envelope. There was no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper. The message wasn't a direct threat. Instead, it contained a strange sentence. "You should have left the past alone." Sharon immediately became serious. She recognized the wording. It reminded her of something Sienna had said weeks earlier. Sharon began wondering whether Sienna was responsible. She didn't want to accuse anyone without proof. but the possibility was becoming harder to ignore. She called Nick. Nick arrived quickly. When he saw the note, his expression changed. He told Sharon that this was no longer something she should handle alone. Sienna makes a dangerous choice. Sienna eventually arrived near Crimson Lights. She didn't enter. She simply watched from a distance. Sharon was inside. Nick was with her. Sienna saw them together and became furious. Her jealousy intensified. She believed Nick was protecting Sharon instead of understanding what Sharon had supposedly done to her. Sienna's hands trembled. For one moment she turned around and walked away. That was the right decision. But halfway down the street, she stopped. She looked back, and she returned. This time, Sienna wasn't thinking about confronting Sharon. She was thinking about ending the conflict once and for all. Sharon faces Sienna. Eventually, Sharon stepped outside. She immediately noticed Sienna. The two women stared at each other. Neither spoke. Finally, Sharon asked, "Is there something you want to tell me?" Sienna smiled coldly. "You already know." Sharon shook her head. "No, I don't." Sienna stepped closer. "You always pretend you don't know." Sharon remained calm. "If I've hurt you, tell me what I did." That question completely changed Sienna's expression. For a moment, she looked vulnerable. She almost confessed everything. She almost admitted that her anger had consumed her. Instead, Sienna said, "You took everything from me." Sharon replied, "I never wanted to destroy your life." Sienna laughed bitterly. "That's what you always say." The confrontation became increasingly emotional, but Sharon refused to respond with anger. She told Sienna that revenge wouldn't repair her life. Those words hit Sienna harder than Sharon expected. A secret witness. Neither woman realized that someone had witnessed the confrontation. The person secretly recorded part of the conversation. That recording could become the evidence Sharon desperately needed. But before the witness could leave, Sienna noticed movement nearby. She turned. The witness disappeared. Sienna suddenly realized she might not be alone. That frightened her. For the first time, Sienna understood that her actions could have consequences. Nick intervenes. Nick returned just as Sienna was leaving. He confronted her. He asked why she had been around Sharon repeatedly. Sienna denied everything. Nick wasn't convinced. He told her that Sharon deserved to feel safe. Sienna responded angrily that nobody cared about what she had suffered. Nick told her that suffering didn't justify hurting another person. That statement silenced her. Sienna looked away. Nick continued, "If you're angry, get help. Talk to somebody. But don't make a choice you'll regret forever." Sienna didn't answer. She walked away, but her expression suggested that the battle wasn't over. Sharon makes a decision. Sharon finally admitted that she was scared, not because she wanted sympathy, because she realized Sienna's behavior was becoming unpredictable. She decided she couldn't keep pretending everything was normal. Sharon agreed to document every suspicious incident. She also decided to tell the people closest to her exactly what had been happening. Nick supported her. For Sharon, this was a major change. Instead of hiding the problem, she was finally confronting it. Sienna's breaking point. That night, Sienna returned home. She stared at herself in the mirror. She looked exhausted. The anger that had seemed powerful earlier now looked pathetic. She whispered Sharon's name. Then she said, "What am I becoming?" For the first time, Sienna realized that revenge had changed her. She wasn't happier. She wasn't stronger. She was trapped inside her own anger. Her phone buzzed again. Another message appeared. "Don't back down now." Sienna stared at it. Then something unexpected happened. She turned the phone off. She sat down, and she began to cry. The episode made it clear that Sienna had reached a crossroads. She could continue toward destruction, or she could stop. But someone else is pulling the strings. Just when it appeared that Sienna might walk away from her obsession, the episode introduced another twist. The mysterious person contacting her wasn't acting alone. A second phone appeared on a desk somewhere in Genoa City. The screen displayed photographs of Sharon. There were photographs of Sienna too. Someone had been monitoring both women. Someone had deliberately encouraged Sienna's anger, and that meant the entire situation could be much bigger than anyone realized. The unknown person made a phone call. "We're almost there," the person said. Then the call ended. The identity remained hidden. Sharon receives a shocking revelation. Later, Sharon received a message from an unknown number. It contained a photograph. The image showed Sienna standing outside Crimson Lights earlier that day. Sharon stared at it. Nick asked what was wrong. Sharon showed him. Nick immediately became concerned. He told Sharon that this proved someone was watching her. But Sharon noticed something else. The photograph had been taken from an unusual angle. Whoever took it wasn't standing on the street. They were much closer. That meant the person behind the messages could be someone Sharon knew, someone she trusted. The final confrontation. Near the end of the episode, Sienna returned to the location where everything had started. She expected to find Sharon. Instead, Sharon was waiting. Sienna looked surprised. Sharon told her, "I know you're angry." Sienna remained silent. "But I also know somebody is manipulating you." Sienna's eyes widened. Sharon continued, "Someone is feeding your anger. Someone wants you to believe hurting me will solve everything." Sienna finally admitted, "You don't understand what I've lost." Sharon replied, "Maybe I don't. But I know what happens when anger becomes the only thing keeping you going." Sienna looked away. For a moment it seemed like she might finally tell Sharon the truth. Then a noise came from behind them. Both women turned. Nobody was there. But on the ground was another envelope. Sharon picked it up. Inside was a message. "This isn't over." Sienna stared at Sharon. For once, neither woman knew what to say. The final twist. The episode ended with Sienna walking away from Sharon. She appeared shaken, but instead of returning to her previous plan, she went somewhere unexpected. She entered a quiet location and met the mysterious person who had been contacting her. The audience never saw the person's face. Sienna looked angry. "You lied to me," she said. The mysterious figure replied, "I told you exactly what you needed to hear." Sienna shook her head. "You used me." The person smiled. "No, you used your own anger." Sienna looked horrified. Then the person revealed one final piece of information. Sharon wasn't the only target. There was another name on the list. Sienna stared at the name. Her entire expression changed. The episode ended before viewers could see exactly who it was. What this means for Friday. Thursday's episode dramatically changed Sienna's storyline. What initially appeared to be a simple revenge plot may actually be part of a much larger scheme. Sienna clearly has dangerous anger toward Sharon, but the episode also showed that she is struggling with the consequences of her own choices. Sharon, meanwhile, is finally taking the situation seriously. Nick is determined to protect her. And somewhere in Genoa City, an unknown person appears to be manipulating events from the shadows. The biggest question isn't simply whether Sienna wants revenge against Sharon. The bigger question is, who wants Sienna to turn against Sharon, and why? If Sienna discovers the truth before things go too far, she may have a chance to stop the plan. But if she continues listening to the person manipulating her, Sharon could find herself facing the most dangerous threat she's encountered in a long time. And the identity of the next target could change everything. To be continued.